pregnant girl is kidnapped by gangsters and forced onto an operating table. Doctors prepare to remove the baby she's carrying in desperation, but the girl spots an escape route. She catches the right moment and kicks the doctor. But this alerts the gangster. To protect the baby in her tummy, she desperately runs away. Unfortunately, just as she runs out of the alley, she's hit by a car. Gangster urgently calls a private doctor to treat her. He can't bear to hurt her as she is his brother's lover, so he calls the gangster's advisor and lies that she's been in a car accident and had a miscarriage, but the advisor is still not satisfied and orders him to make her disappear from this world forever. The gangster can't bear to do that. When the girl wakes up, he suggests her to escape with the baby and never come back. It turns out that the love of her life, who is a mob boss, is about to be married to the daughter of his antagonistic family. And the existence of her and the baby in her womb is a huge threat to both the gangster families. Her life took an upside-down turn few months back. The sun dipped low over the glistening skyline of Manila as a young woman named Yana Rivera stood nervously at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. She clutched her boarding pass with trembling fingers, her knuckles white against the printed paper. It was her first flight, and though it was only a short trip to Iloilo, her heart pounded like a war drum in her chest. With no one left to lean on, no family to fall back to, Yana had come to Manila months ago, hoping to start over. Her mother had died of illness years ago, and her estranged father had never wanted her. Her only anchor had been her part-time job at a small clinic in Quezon City, where she spent her days helping patients and finding fragments of peace. That peace was about to be shattered. When Yana boarded the flight, the turbulence began almost immediately. The seat beside her was occupied by a man whose presence was almost too intense for the small space of economy class. Sharp-featured, eyes like obsidian, hair slicked back but already escaping its form, the man barely moved even as the aircraft jolted through the clouds. Yana squeezed her eyes shut, her fingers gripping the shared armrest, until poof, she accidentally dug her nails deep into the man's hand. He didn't cry out. He didn't flinch. He simply turned his head and looked at her. Their eyes met. For a moment, time suspended itself. Yana gasped. "I'm so sorry. Oh God, I didn't mean to." Without a word, the man reached into his coat pocket, dabbing at the blood with a white handkerchief. But then Yana, rummaging through her bag, found the only bandage she had, a Hello Kitty plaster. Blushing, she offered it with a shy smile. He stared at it, then at her, then chuckled, a low, gravelly sound that made her chest flutter. With a gentleness that belied the cold edge in his appearance, he allowed her to place the pink bandage over his wound. The entire plane watched in silence, though neither noticed. In that fleeting moment, a memory was formed, one that neither would forget. His name was Hasman Montalibano, though Yana didn't know it then. And she would never have guessed that she had just comforted one of the most feared men in the Philippine underworld. After they landed in Iloilo, he disappeared into a black convoy that whisked him away to a secluded estate hidden in the hills outside Tagaytay. There, he reunited with his half-brother Toriel, a man younger than him but hardened by the same cruelty that had shaped their lives. Hasman bore a wound on his chest, a bullet fired by a rival family, the Salgados. Though the Montalibano name was once revered in politics and feared in backroom dealings, the shootout that nearly killed Hasman had forced the family into hiding. Now he lived under a false name, with forged documents, evading not only law but vengeance. Yana returned to her boarding house, shaken by the experience. She told no one about the man on the plane. What would she even say? That she felt safe in the presence of a stranger who bled under her nails? Fate would bring them together again, in the most unlikely of ways. Weeks passed, and Manila fell into its usual rhythm, traffic choking the roads, city lights glowing over tired dreams, and rainstorms that came without warning. Yana buried herself in her work at the Quezon City clinic, trying not to think about the stranger with the obsidian eyes and soft smile. But no matter how hard she tried, his face crept into her mind during quiet moments, especially when she patched up a patient and remembered the silly Hello Kitty bandage she'd used on him. Then one day, as she was cleaning medical trays in the back room, a tall figure stepped into the waiting area. The air shifted. Hasman Montalibano. She nearly dropped the tray. He was wearing a simple polo and jeans now, his appearance unassuming, but that air of command clung to him like a second skin. His eyes landed on her instantly. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he smirked, lifting his arm and gesturing at a healing scar wrapped in gauze. "Thought I'd return the favor," he said. Yana laughed nervously. "Didn't expect you to be the clingy type." "I'm not," he replied. "Just curious." That was how it started, his injuries becoming his excuse to see her again. He began visiting the clinic regularly, sometimes with real ailments, sometimes with imaginary ones. He'd ask questions about her, listen intently when she spoke, and walk her home on rainy nights, sharing his umbrella as if it were their own private world. Yana found herself drawn in. He was guarded, yes, but respectful. He never pushed, never pried. She sensed pain in his silences, a history in the scars he tried to hide. He never mentioned what he did for work, and she never asked. All that mattered was how he made her feel safe. Desired, important. And Hasman. For the first time in years, he felt human. For a man born into violence, Yana was like a sunrise after endless nights. She was kind without reason, hopeful in a world that had given her none. She pulled smiles from him even when he didn't want to smile. One night, as they stood outside her boarding house beneath the flickering street lamp, she touched his cheek and said, "Smile more. You're too beautiful to hide behind shadows." So he did. And then he kissed her. It was soft at first, hesitant, as if testing whether something so pure could survive in someone so broken. But when she didn't pull away, his arms wrapped around her, and he kissed her like a man starved for warmth. That night, they made love. Not out of lust, but desperation for a future they both feared they couldn't have. What Yana didn't. Couldn't have known was that Hasman's days of peace were numbered. The Montalibanos had entered into secret negotiations with the Salgados to end the years-long blood feud. The condition? A union between the families, a marriage. Hasman was to marry Nephili Salgado, daughter of the man he'd once shot in self-defense. The wedding would symbolize a ceasefire. Yana, now unknowingly pregnant, was an obstacle. Hamel, the Montalibano family's shadowy advisor, discovered her condition first. Instead of confronting Hasman, he conspired with Hasman's stepmother, Alona, and brother Torrio. The baby couldn't be allowed to exist. Not with the fragile peace hanging in the balance. Torrio was given a command he didn't want. Lure Yana to a fake clinic in Makati, make it look like a prenatal checkup, and ensure the baby was never born. He hated himself for it. He liked Yana. He respected Hasman. But he feared Hamel more. Yana, naive and trusting, agreed to go. At the clinic, when the mask dropped and she was forced onto the gurney, panic overtook her. Her heart pounded with fury and terror. When the doctor leaned over her with the syringe, she used the strength only a mother protecting her child could summon. She kicked, elbowed, bit. Then she ran out the door, burst open. She sprinted into the alley and screamed, the screech of tires. The thud of flesh against metal. She was hit. Torrio rushed forward. His mind screamed to finish the job, but his conscience, what little was left, couldn't allow it. He called a trusted family doctor, had her treated, and when asked about the pregnancy, he lied. She miscarried, he said. It's done. When Yana awoke days later, bruised but still carrying her child, Torrio was at her bedside, hollow-eyed and exhausted. "You have to leave," he whispered. "Disappear. Go. Somewhere no one will find you. If you love Hasman, if you love this baby, run." Tears streamed down her face as she listened. She didn't want to believe any of it, but she had no choice. So she packed her things, left Manila behind, and disappeared into the provinces. Erasing herself from Hasman's world. Back in Iloilo, Hasman was being prepared for his wedding. He had no idea. He thought Yana had chosen to leave him. He was told she found someone else. The Montalibano Salgado wedding was grand. Too grand for a man who didn't want it. The church in Iloilo overflowed with politicians, businessmen, and people wearing masks thicker than their makeup. Hasman stood at the altar in a barong Tagalog tailored to perfection, but his eyes were hollow. His heart didn't beat for the woman walking down the aisle in white. It belonged to someone else. Someone who wasn't there. Nephili Salgado was beautiful. Her family had trained her to be poised, graceful, cunning. She walked with elegance, her chin high, her heart foolishly hopeful. She had loved Hasman since childhood. Even knowing he didn't love her back, she thought marriage might open the door. That maybe, if she gave him everything, he might give her just a little in return. But Hasman's heart had frozen the day he was told Yana left him. He smiled for photos, exchanged vows under the chandeliered altar, and kissed Nephili on the cheek when the crowd clapped. But in his head, he only saw one face, Yana's, her laughter, her tears, her goodbye that never came. Back in the province of Aurora, Yana had given birth on a stormy night with only her estranged father Emilio by her side. He had turned her away months ago when she returned home pregnant and unmarried, calling her a disgrace to their late mother's name. But when her water broke and she clutched his shirt, crying in pain, his heart cracked. He delivered the baby with shaking hands, cutting the cord with a kitchen knife, holding his grandson to his chest as the storm raged outside. That night, something changed. Emilio didn't say sorry, but he didn't have to. He built a crib from bamboo. He sold chickens to buy baby clothes. Slowly, the three of them became a family. Yana named the baby Liam, Protector, because he had saved her, not the other way around. The years passed in silence. Yana worked at a local beauty salon to support them, while her father guarded her fiercely, still ashamed of what he once did, still trying to make up for it. Gossip in the small town was cruel. People whispered about the child with no father. But Yana kept her head high and raised her son with pride. Hasman, meanwhile, was sinking. Nephili tried everything to be the wife he needed. She dressed in silk, prepared his favorite meals, and even stood by him in business, but she was invisible to him. He treated her like a colleague, not a partner. Their home was cold, a mansion, with no warmth. At night, he'd sit in the nursery that had never been used, staring at the watch Yana gave him, the one with their photo inside. Until one day, a tip came in from an old ally. Yana had been seen in Manila with a boy who looked just like Hasman. He drove to the city without telling anyone. When he reached the hotel, he spotted her in the lobby. She was dressed plainly, holding a small boy's hand. Her smile was brighter than the chandelier above them. But when he took a step forward, she turned and walked away. She didn't see him. Or maybe she did, and chose not to look back. He followed her quietly, waiting for a moment. When Nephili left for a conference the next morning, he returned to the hotel and waited outside their room. Yana opened the door and gasped. Hasman alive, right in front of her. The same eyes, the same man, but different. He looked older, harder, hungrier. Neither said a word. Then, as if pulled by gravity, they stepped into each other's arms. They spoke on the balcony as rain fell lightly. Yana revealed everything: how she'd been kidnapped, how Torrio helped her escape, how she was told Hasman would die if she stayed. She wept as she confessed how much she still loved him. Hasman held her, whispering his apologies, his anger, his longing. He had been lied to, manipulated, controlled, but no more. He knelt before Liam and looked into the boy's eyes. "I'm your father," he said, voice trembling. "If you'll let me be." Liam smiled, unsure, but leaned forward and hugged him. For a moment, Hasman was whole again. He took Yana and Liam to a private island owned by his late uncle. Hidden from the world, the three of them built a short but precious life. They swam in crystal waters, shared stories at sunset, built sandcastles by the sea. Hasman never felt freer, but peace, for a man like him, was always borrowed time. Nephili wasn't blind. She noticed Hasman's disappearances, the way he smiled differently, the way he wouldn't touch her even when she begged. One night, she followed one of his trusted men. When she found the island and saw Yana, her heart shattered. Nephili returned to Iloilo and called her brother Sandro Salgado. Sandro still burned with hatred for Hasman. He had never forgiven him for killing their father. The marriage was a truce, not forgiveness. Now he had a reason to break it. Nephili pleaded with him not to hurt Hasman, only to bring him back. But Sandro had his own agenda. He kidnapped Torio, first using him as bait. Then he called Hasman. "If you want your brother alive, come alone." Yana begged Hasman not to go. "We can run," she pleaded. "We can disappear again." But Hasman kissed her forehead. "They'll never stop. Not until I end it." He kissed Liam goodnight, promised he'd return, and took a boat to Iloilo. The mansion of the Salgados in Iloilo was a fortress, guarded by armed men and buried secrets. As Hasman stepped through the gates, he was stripped of his weapons, but not his resolve. He had come not just for Torio, but to end the decades-long blood war that had devoured lives, families, futures. He walked into the grand hall where Sandro stood like a vulture in a barong embroidered with his family's crest, flanked by men who once swore loyalty to Hasman's father. Nephili was there too, standing behind her brother, her face pale, her hands shaking, watching the man she loved walk into a trap she helped set. Hasman's voice was calm. "Release my brother, and I'll do whatever you want." "You already know what we want," Sandro said. "Justice, vengeance. You want peace," Hasman countered. "You just don't know how to ask for it without blood." "Don't preach to me, murderer," Sandro snapped. "You killed our father." Hasman's jaw tightened. "He tried to kill mine. He killed my cousins. He started this war. But I'm here to end it." Nephili stepped forward, tears welling in her eyes. "Please, just stay. Forget her. I'll raise your son. We can be a family. Just stop all of this." Hasman looked at her, and for the first time, there was no anger, just pity. "You deserve someone who loves you, Nephili. That's not me." Sandro raised his gun. "Enough, kneel." Hasman didn't flinch. "Let my brother go, and I'll kneel." A door opened, and Torio stumbled out bloodied, but alive. When he saw Hasman, his eyes widened. "Don't do this." Hasman dropped to his knees. Nephili turned away, unable to watch. Her brother raised the gun. But then, the silence broke. Gunfire outside, shouting, chaos. Hasman's loyal men had arrived, breaching the perimeter, outnumbering the guards. In the confusion, Hasman lunged at Sandro. The gun fired. The bullet grazed Hasman's shoulder, but he fought through the pain. The two men tumbled across the marble floor in a brutal final clash. Torio freed himself and tackled another guard. The gun skidded across the floor, landing at Nephili's feet. She picked it up. Her hands shook. Her heart pounded. Two men she loved were about to kill each other. She pointed the gun at Sandro, then at Hasman, then back. "Stop!" She screamed. Both froze. "I loved you," she whispered to Hasman, "but you were never mine. And you." She turned to her brother. "You've let hatred destroy everything good in our family. This ends tonight." She dropped the gun. Sandro, blinded by rage, rushed at Hasman with a knife. Nephili screamed. But Hasman dodged and disarmed him, holding the blade to his throat. He could have killed him. But instead, he threw the knife aside. "It ends when we choose peace," he said, standing tall. "Not when we bury everyone we love." Sandro, breathing heavily, said nothing. Sirens wailed in the distance. The neighbors had called the police. Hasman turned to Torio. "Let's go." As they left the compound, Hasman looked back one last time. Nephili stood there, tears streaming but no longer begging. She had set him free. Back on the island, Yana was waiting. She saw the boat approaching and ran to the dock, her heart in her throat. Hasman jumped out, bruised but alive, and swept her into his arms. Liam joined them, wrapping around his father's leg. The nightmare was over. In the following months, Hasman officially left the criminal world. He handed over the remnants of his father's empire to charities, legitimate businesses, and the government. With his resources, he built a new life, one of honesty, healing, and hope. He married Yana in a quiet ceremony under the trees of their island. No suits, no guns, just family, love, and freedom. Liam served as ring-bearer, wearing a mini barong and beaming with pride. Torio rebuilt his life too, opening a youth shelter in Manila to help kids escape gang life. He became Liam's godfather and never left his side again. Nephili? She left Iloilo. She cut ties with her brother and opened a clinic in Cebu, offering free medical care to abused women. She never married, but she found her own kind of peace in helping others escape the trap she once fell into. Years later, Hasman stood at the edge of the beach, watching Liam build a sandcastle with Yana by his side. He wrapped an arm around her waist and kissed her temple. They had been through hell and back, lies, blood, betrayal. But love had survived it all. And in the hush of the waves, in the laughter of his son, Hasman Montalibano finally found what he thought was lost forever: home. If you enjoyed this emotional roller coaster of love, betrayal, and redemption, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful Filipino romance stories that touch the heart and stir the soul. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of drama, passion, and destiny. Salamat for watching. See you in the next story.